All right, we just got out of seeing a demo for Control, the new game by Remedy. So you're directing Control, but how long have you been working on it so far?
So it's a bit tricky question. We started actually, the first ideas for Control, I think came when we were still working on Quantum Break. And we started with the idea that we created these complicated, interesting worlds, right? And we wanted to have a different approach. And Quantum Break had a lot of elements that got us excited regarding world building. And so there was this kind of a core of an idea that occurred then. And after we're done with Quantum, we started to concept this game together with Sam. So it's been roughly 2 years, but when we started, it was just basically me and Sam talking about the game.
Awesome. Sam is Sam Lake,
yeah, Sam Lake.
The guy who always looks in Max Payne, his face is on everything.
That's him.
Gotta love it. Okay, so while we saw the demo of Control, we passed by rooms. We saw like the crashed car, which is its own story, I guess. The refrigerator and the guy, which is a side quest in the game.
Right.
So, like, are all these objects going to have side quests attached to them? Are they all going to be their own little stories?
So there's a background on lore for every single object you will see in the game. Not all of them will have side quests attached to them. And I think as a starting point for all of these different ideas that we had was that we wanted to be a hidden world beyond mundane objects, right? So there's something that seems kind of a non-threatening and trivial and simple, like a fridge. But then there's something scary and disturbing kind of beyond that, right? So there's this guy sitting in that cage. He needs to be looking at it at all times, and if he doesn't, then something horrible will happen. And that's the mood that we want to have in this experience. That there's this sense of kind of a hidden world that can express itself in an unexpected, scary way. And yeah, that's where the ideas come from. It's hard to tell. It's like our twisted brains just kind of looking at these kind of everyday things and doing this weird magic.
What's the bad thing that happens if he doesn't look at the fridge? Does all his meat go bad?
I don't want to tell you. You need to buy the game and play it.
All right,
I'm sorry.
And play it. So while we were watching the gameplay demo, we saw all these super cool powers: levitation, telekinetics. I'm sure there's more. Is there anything other you can talk about?
Well, the theme of all power in this game is with the keyword control. It is about controlling things, controlling elements, controlling the physicality of the world. And that can be expressed in a multitude of different ways. For instance, when Chelsea flies or levitates, it's her telekinetically controlling herself. So that's the basis for all of the different abilities that we're going to have in the game. And the inspiration to that comes from some of the older horror movies, like Carrie or The Exorcist. So you see these kind of elements already there. And there's kind of an interesting... The key part, really, is that we want to have this grounded physical feel to all the different supernatural abilities you see in the game. So it's not like anybody's starting to form a fireball or anything like that. Sure, it's extraordinary and crazy what you see, but there's this feeling of believability to it, right?
Right.
And that's why it kind of works well in this more suspenseful setting. And that's where the inspirations really do come from, like Carrie and The Exorcist and so on.
Now, similar to the crazy powers, we saw she had a crazy gun. It looked like
yeah.
it was breathing, actually, almost. Is that like a secret? Am I not supposed to... Is that like a big key plot thing that breathes?
The gun, okay, so a huge part of the kind of aesthetic pillar, I would say, for the game is this a shape-shifting nature of things. Like you see it in the building, and you see it in the gun, and so on. So it's a language that we're using quite often. And so when it seems like it's breathing, it's been a part of how... I need to choose my words really carefully so I don't reveal too much. But there is a sense of, life to these things.
Okay.
The building itself, the gun, and many of these elements. And it's all a part of, not necessarily, we don't want to be like super clear and simple about this stuff, but you know the literary genre New Weird, which is about things that might be beyond human comprehension. Like you see things that might, you know, be things that you are never able to really explain or understand. And there are a lot of interpretations of what these things are, how they work, even within the building itself. Like the Bureau is a vast organization that researches, contains, and tries to understand these objects, and the building itself as well. And there's a lot of different takes on what these things are, how they work, or how people think they work. And they create models and experiments, and that's a huge part of the lore of this world and what you can find.
And speaking of this world, the whole thing takes place in, we would call it the oldest house, I think it was called?
That's right, yes.
Yeah, the oldest house. So what's the deal with the oldest house? It looks weird, everything's shifting constantly. I kind of love it.
Right, yeah, it's a strange place.
Yeah.
So it's a world within a location, basically. From the outside, it's an innocent-looking skyscraper in New York. But once you go in, a new reality opens up to you. And as said, it's not something that anybody within this world really fully understands. They know that when they do certain things at certain locations, maybe at certain times, things happen, and you know, things can appear or disappear, things can shift, change shapes, and so on.
Okay.
And that's something that people want to understand. And some of them think they do, but you never know for sure.
Yeah. So while they were playing the demo, one thing we all noticed was there was basically no UI. There was a little, like when the aiming crosshair, and had a little meter next to it that showed how much bullets you had left, how much gun you had left. Is the whole game gonna be like that? Is there gonna be no UI or very minimal at best?
We always try to be as minimalistic as we possibly can, just to ensure that there's a sense of immersion into the world. But sometimes there are certain things that can't just be avoided regarding the HUD and UI. It is still work in progress, but our intent is to be as minimalistic as possible, but of course there's work still left to be done.
Awesome. And now, for the powers, I already asked Brad if we're going to get more, but it's the same thing with like the UI. Is there like any limit to the powers you can use? I saw there was levitation. Can you just fly anywhere in the game, or is that like...
There are limits. So Jessie has a limited amount of, let's call it energy, that she can use.
Yeah.
And so yeah, she needs to pace it out and think about what power to use and when.
Awesome.
To just ensure that, you know, she survives.
Now, one thing I've always loved about Remedy's games, soundtrack.
Yeah.
I love, like when I immediately think of Remedy, I think of Alan Wake had that part with Space Odyssey, I think it was. Like, that's the first thing that comes to mind. And even not just the licensed soundtrack, but also great original soundtracks. With Control, everything seems pretty... Like, even the soundtrack was weird to go with the game. I kind of thought it was great. Yeah. Is that like the basis around the rest of the soundtrack too? Are we going to hear a lot more weird stuff?
It was really important for us to have this unexpected, almost a bit uncomfortable experience when you listen to the soundscape of the world and the music itself. So, and I personally love that kind of offbeat style and tone, and it fits with the world that we're creating and how it comes across to the player.
Awesome. So they told us that the game will come out. They didn't have a release date, but it's coming for the PlayStation 4, PC, and Xbox One. Are there any plans for next generation, or like that seems to be a thing?
Too early to tell.
Too early to tell?
Yes, but those are the platforms we're going to be releasing on.
Okay.
2019.
Something a little more lighthearted. A good chunk of the reason why I really wanted to be here was you guys were tweeting your remote capping a dog. Is that dog going to be in Control?
Well, it's we all love Uno. He's a great dog. So it started off as a fun experiment. Now we kind of feel obligated to come up with something fun with that.
Uno could be in the game.
Yeah,
he's a good boy. I'm also, to be honest, for a little while thought it was a John Wick game. So to move from that, are there any IPs you guys would love to work on, just in general?
Just in general? Wow, that's a That's a good question. I'd love to do a John Wick game.
I think everyone would love to do John Wick.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like Max Payne, John Wick.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
All right.
I would love to work on Max Payne again as well. So, but it's not our IP anymore. So, yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll find a way somehow. I have no ability to do that. I will find a way.